Good morning, YouTube. It is Saturday, July 1st, 2017, and it's 8:43 a.m. I want to thank you guys. I did a video last night before I went to bed, and this is my talk, Lily, I'm sorry. I did a video apologizing for an earlier video I did pertaining to Blacks Who Claim Native American Challenge video. And I got up this morning and I saw some of the comments, and so I want to thank you for your feedback and that you hear me. So I feel very retrospective right now, and this video is going to be, I'm going to tell a story. And you guys know I can get very long-winded, but it's a story that you don't have to listen to in one sitting, whatever. I just feel that I want you to understand me, and I want you to know that I'm not someone who is about putting down people, their heritage, whatever, but I want you to understand through my perspective where I'm really coming from. It's the intent of an individual that's the issue in most situations, I believe. And so my story is going to be about myself, my experiences as it pertains to my own identity. And growing up in the United States, identity was a major play in everything I did. And it was very difficult for me. And I've shared many times that I have I've done DNA tests that I shared with you guys. I was told about the certain backgrounds and heritage that I was told that I have. But in my family, race and identity wasn't really discussed that much, and I didn't know my background. I knew of I have black ancestry and white ancestry, because my parents look like, that's evident. But it's something that really wasn't discussed much, and maybe it's because my background. I'm a third generation New Yorker. My grandparents came from the Caribbean, all different islands, three different islands. I think maybe part of his culture in the Caribbean is that the islands are small. Some are larger than others, of course, but people know who you are. People know. Word gets around. You can't hide a secret in the Caribbean. Not like up here, because the land is so big here. You can hide your story. You can hide your identity. You can move to a new location if it was, when it's possible, and start a new life. So it's something, that it wasn't a big thing. You are who you are. Okay, you look like a black person or you look like a white. So that's what you are. You live according to your wits, and you do the best you can. So that's in that aspect. But being here in the United States, living in New York City, because I'm not coming from the South, I may not sound exactly like other blacks. And so I was asked often what my background was. And I didn't know. I just know, I'm me. So I remember, I think I was 18 years old when I first, my family had taken out these photos of our relatives. And that's when I was discovering my Caribbean background. And one of the stories that was being discussed was on my father's side, my father's mother's side. And it was a story how she met, my grandmother was a biracial. She had a West Indian mom, a very black-skinned West Indian mom from Antigua. Antigua is not a lot of mixing. You find a lot of the former British colonies in the Caribbean is overwhelmingly very little mixing of blacks. I mean, the blacks aren't mixed as much. It's almost exclusively black. And yes, the former British colonies did bring people from India and China to the regions, but basically, during the time of slavery, whatever, it was almost exclusively black. And of course, they are mixing, but it's not that much. So her phenotype was very African looking, and this particular ancestor had all her children with European men, and one of them was from Portugal. But I think actually might have been actually born in Madeira, which is a Portuguese colony that's right off the coast of Africa. So either way, the story was that she met the guy on a ship. But it wasn't told to me in the full context. The story, I thought, was that maybe she's coming to the Americas for the first time. That's what I'm thinking. And that she came from Africa. It was a question whether she was coming from Africa and she met this Portuguese man. And it was said that he might have been a sailor or captain of the ship or something like that. So I'm thinking, okay, a captain of a ship and a black woman, or possibly from Africa. So I thought, oh, okay, well, I know the Portuguese had colonies in Africa, and I remember, I'm sorry, no, I keep looking up. When I think, I look up to try to remember better, but I remember being told that he had offered her like a trousseau, like, I give you this, and you be my wife or woman or whatever. And she said okay, but she had a twin sister, and said, well, if I'm to come with you, my twin sister has to come along. And so the agreement was made. So this was new. And I'm thinking, okay, she's probably from, maybe she's from Africa. So maybe, okay, where did the Portuguese have a colony? Okay, they had a colony in Mozambique, and they also had one in Angola. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe that's my identity, my true identity. But it turns out that wasn't the case. He had traveled. He was a merchant, and he came to the Caribbean as a child with his family. And so probably on one of his trips back to Europe, back in those days, this is in the late 1800s, and people they didn't have planes back then, so people traveled by ship. And he would go to Lisbon to get supplies, things that he could sell, and bring them back to the Caribbean and sell his wares. And probably in one of those trips, and people, maybe my ancestor, the one from the islands, maybe she was visiting another island or whatever, who knows, but she's on this ship, and they met up. And she had about 5 children with this individual. So I remember on one occasion, this is in, let's see, I might have been 19 or 20 at that time, when I was being asked about my identity. It was at a job site. I'm new in the job market, and a woman asked, "Oh, you're very different. What's your background?" And I said, "Oh, well, I told her the story that a Portuguese background and an African woman, possibly from Angola or Mozambique." I was telling the people, and it was going on, and it was enough for the person to this. Oh, okay, I understand. Why you might look or talk the way you do. I was sincere, but this is what I thought. But again, this ancestor of mine, she was a Caribbean woman, and uh, she's on a boat. Maybe she's visiting other family on different islands, whatever. But um, she, of course, her ancient ancestry probably was, in West Africa, like many blacks in the Caribbean and Central and South America and North America. So that was like the first um, instance about explaining my heritage, and I wasn't accurate. But according to the pieces that I had, I created a story that seemed like maybe this was what happened, but it was not accurate, and it didn't mean that something like that couldn't happen to someone else, but in my story it wasn't, you know. So sometimes when people are relaying stories, they relay bits and pieces, and we try to put explanations in the middle. And then as we get more information, they say, oh, okay, that's what happened. Okay, And then, you tell, you can share the what you learned with your family. Just like when I did my DNA, I shared the results with my family members. So that's my first story, and I hope it made sense to you. And then I want to share another story that I used to live in Hawaii, and I met a very interesting individual there. One thing about Hawaii, you meet. I went there strictly for economic reasons, and I had to leave New York because I worked. The work was 20 years. I left in 98. Yeah, 1998. And the economy was awful in New York, and I couldn't find work in any of the work I used to do. So I felt forced. So it wasn't anything glamorous. It was strictly economics when I left. But it seemed like when I got down there that spiritual spiritual awakenings I was going through. It was not a glamorous time there in Hawaii. I stayed in the island of Maui. It is a beautiful place. And one thing I share right up front, that Hawaii doesn't have a lot of blacks, well, American blacks. It does have Puerto Ricans there. What else? It's overwhelmingly Asian. And of course you have the indigenous Hawaiians that live there as well, but there are not many indigenous Hawaiians there, not that many, but it's overwhelmingly Asian, East Asian in background. It's socially, it's friendly, but for economics, if you're black, you're really not wanted there. I'm just going to be real about that. But again, this video is not about economics. But economics is always an issue in life. But I just felt to let you know up front. But I met an individual. I'm not going to give her name, and some of the stories about her I'm going to change a little bit because to protect the person's identity. That's what I'm getting at. She was middle-aged woman. She looked very young for her age. She was in her 50s actually, but she looked good for her age. I thought she was in her 30s. I met her. Let's see. I was at a low period emotionally. The economy. I had lost work, and I was in debt. I mean, I was paying my bills and everything, but to feel like you're struggling financially, it's a horrible feeling. And I'm one of those people. I like to pay my bills. I don't believe in partying. I believe in paying my bills. And if anything is left over after paying my responsibilities, you could buy a little treat, a little something to eat, whatever, your favorite, treat food. But either way, I so I'm not feeling good about myself, and I go to one of the parks there, and the parks had like benches so you can have picnic, and I met this woman. She was a black woman from the mainland, from the east, from New York, where I'm from, and at this time, Hawaii didn't have that many blacks there, and I wanted to find someone who I could socialize with, another black person. It's really something. I never would have thought I would be interested in really fellowshipping with other blacks, but when you realize how much you miss someone when you're away from them. That's what I'm getting at. And when you're alone and there's no one there that you could really relate to or who could relate to you, you start to really seek out. So this woman, she was eccentric. She carried herself in a very unique way. She was she lived in her car. She fashioned her car very exotic. Let me put it that way. Very exotic. If that car was here in New York or anywhere in the U.S. mainland, she'd probably be pulled over. She had all her belongings in the trunk and inside the back seat of her car. At this park or picnic area, she had a display of stuff, religious paraphernalia. She dressed in like the Hebrew Israelites type of costume. She looked kind of crazy. I'm just being real, but my desire to fellowship with other people, with other black people, was so strong. I overlooked her uniqueness, how she carried herself. I wanted to talk to somebody. I wanted to just share, just be a part of someone. And so when I saw her, and I think I might have seen her once before in town, but I said, let me take a chance. I said, I was just my curiosity, and I'm a very curious person, and so I said, could I talk to you? Could I come over? She said, sure. So I woke up because I want to give her space. But I was just curious about her. And we had a nice long conversation. And I befriended her for about a 2-week period. It was very, very intense, very, very unique. It was an adventure. She lived in this, at nighttime she would sleep in this. It was like a little cottage. It was smaller than a garage. It was just big enough so that you can kind of crawl in it. It was a storage place. And at nighttime she would stay the whole day at the park. She played these tapes of the Bible, and she played this flute. Just really eccentric. She was very entertaining, and she liked natural foods. She'll cook, like she introduced me to, what was that, couscous, and then she'd cut up this fresh garlic and sprinkle it on it. And then she had this soyu. In Hawaii they use we call it soy sauce, but this was a brand, soyu, and she sprinkled soy sauce on top. And it tastes wonderful. I said, wow, she made it was so exciting to the palate. And she showed me where she lived, where she slept. And I thought it was like an interesting world. She was sharing me her inner world. And I don't want to imply anything of any lesbian or gay thing. No, it was nothing like that. I just want to put that out there. It was just a friendship. She she was just very interesting. And at this time, like when you feel like you've lost everything, at that time in my life, I was on the fringe. I lost everything. I lost all my belongings. I felt abandoned. I felt destitute, and I said, I have nothing to really lose. This, you know, I'm already on the bottom. So I said, this is a new experience for me. Let me just go with it. So she shared that how she let's see, how she lives in a car, and then at night she sleeps in this place, and then she gets donations. She plays a little flute, so she's winging it. And she says, that she never wants to do. She doesn't want to own an apartment or a house again. She wants to live off, by her wits, and live in a car and just do whatever she feels like. And how I felt at that time for myself, I said, wow, I was just captivated by her story. And I was tempted, I have to admit, I wanted to live by my wits. I said, I got this Ford truck. I said, I want to do the same thing. I said, I want to live off of my wits, whatever, I think she might have also got a Social Security. I'm not sure, some disability. I'm not sure. But I knew she had some monies coming in from somewhere. What else? It was just fun, and people would approach her, and she would play her flute and do. She had her whole shtick, her whole routine to people, passerbyers, and it was funny. She was just hilarious. What else? But some people didn't like her. Like I thought what was bad, what happened to her, that she was very clean, even though she's homeless. No, she didn't say homeless. She would say that she's houseless. She didn't have a house to live in, but she lived in her car, and she did her own thing. So she was neat and very clean. And at the end of the day, at the park, she would take all her belongings. She would clean off everything, spotless, as if she was never there. And then she'd go in her car, whatever, go where she wants to go. But some of the local people there were hostile. They had brought a person by to. Well, they were complaining. They said that they will complain about her if they didn't let them have her beach spot, her bench, her picnic bench. There are many picnic benches there, but they wanted that one. They said, "Oh, we saw you here a couple of times. Oh, you're probably homeless. I'm going to tell on you that you're staying here, and because we want this spot." And I was very angry. It was horrible, and I know it was. I felt it was more racially motivated. Okay, she could be homeless. Someone could be homeless in Hawaii. There are a lot of homeless people, mostly whites. Not that many blacks there. But here, this lady, she lived in a car, and clean, didn't bother anybody, and they, so she was forced to move to another spot, and she would get there. It's first come, first serve. So that when the park opens, she'd come in like everybody else, get her spot, at the bench, just like everybody else. But because she's black, and they're biased against her, and they did that to her. So that I'm on her defense, that wasn't right what they did to her. So where this is going in this story. So she's an interesting girl. She did share with me her story from Like I asked her, where's she from? You know, not that like I care what someone's nationality or race. You know, I'm not into that. But, you know, you're meeting someone, we're in another part of the world. Um, and I say, where you from? I'm thinking, you know, what part of town you're from. That's what I'm thinking. I'm not trying to get in her business, you know, but just basic stuff because we're talking. We've talked for hours. And I was just, you know, ask her where she's from. And she says, oh, well, I was born on a ship. I said, oh, okay. So where your family from? Oh, well, it was always another excuse. She didn't want, like she'd say that the ship was in international waters. I said, well, the ship come from somewhere, you know, you know, and it was another story. She didn't want people to know where she's from, but she is from New York. She let's see. She said her family, that her mother was supposed to be an Ethiopian Jew. I said, okay, you know. And she lived, she had such a game going. She had convinced the, what do you call it, the Israeli authorities, and had a Jewish agency finance her trip to get repatriated to Israel. And she even got in a book. She showed me the book. She met some guy there who was had a book, and the author wanted to include all different types of Jewish people, and so they had her in the book. She showed me, and I thought that it was mocking her. She was playing an instrument in the photo, and there were two Ashkenazi children mocking her, pointing and laughing at her, and I didn't like that, you know. There are all types of people there in Israel, and that's the only picture that you can find of a black person, or, you know, phenotypically looking black, and mocking them. So I didn't like that. Either way, she said that she, you know, I gather she had a breakdown early in life. She used to be married, and there was some type of custody thing, and she said the husband did something against her. How does that go? Something happened in the relationship, and he had money, and he took custody of their children. And she was saying that how the children actually looked like me. But she started crying, and I knew at least part of the story was true. I believe that, yes, she had children, and they were taken away from her. But, yeah, I could believe that. She had a good job, and she had a shop in New York City. She had her own little business that she was trying to start, and somehow, you know, she lost it all. I felt badly for her. You know, one thing about her with her identity, trying to stick with this video, she kept changing her story about her identity, and at that time in my life, I was very open to what anybody told me. I was at a low period in my life, and so I know we're hurting, and so what you wanted to share with me, okay, that was what it was. So she would say that, first she'd say that she's an Ethiopian, and then she had different names according to who she talked to. She gave herself a Hawaiian name, you know, something associated with Hawaii. So one minute she's Hawaiian, and then another minute she's an Ethiopian Jew, and then another minute, you know, she's not born anywhere. She's born on a ship, but it was in international waters, so she's of no nationality. And she didn't want to say where her parents are from. You know, it was just one of those things. But I said, you know, I just want to adventure and just have fun with this person, and, you know, but that's what it was. It was always another story, and how she was able to convince people to give her um, substance, money or food. I like how she lived off, by her wits. And I remember I wanted to do, I was tempted to do the same thing. I said, wow, just screw society and just live off the land. Hawaii is nice. There's a lot of places you could kind of camp in. And yeah, it was very mystical, that experience. I just felt badly for her that, she couldn't just be one thing. She didn't want to just be her. And there's just many inconsistencies of her story. But one thing I could say that that's definitive, that she was a hurting person, that she fell into there was some drugs involved. Mostly marijuana, I think, with her. Just a lot of stuff. And so I shared this story about her that, many of us, we're ashamed of our backgrounds. And we want to create a story for people to believe. And she was one of those people. She just had a breakdown. I'm thinking, hey, if she's from me, why did she leave? She left Israel, and she wore the Hebrew. She wore the garb that the men wear in New York City. The Hebrew Israelite men, she wore their outfits. So I said, well, okay, she's from Ethiopia. Why is she wearing Ethiopian stuff? But either way, we say so many things. And what I learned from that experience with her, well, we had a falling out. And her true essence of what she was about, she had a lot of anger. And she said something out of line to a person that I thought was totally out of line. And I was afraid too. I was afraid, like, when you're like the only person that looks like you, people judge. And by association, they'll think that you're that too. And I'm not about what she was, what she had done. I thought she said something out of line to someone, and it just escalated the argument. And I'm there alone. I don't have family there. I went there to Hawaii by myself, and I was afraid. I was afraid because things could be twisted, information, and I liked this park, and I didn't want someone to say, well, because I knew of this person, that I'm banished from this park. I didn't want that to happen to me, But her true character was really manifesting. I said I was able to accept her, what she wanted people to believe about her ancestry and stuff. That was nothing to me. But other thing about your character, and that had surfaced, and I felt for my safety that I end the friendship. But it was just a learning experience. When you're out in the middle of nowhere, what do you tell people? What do you do? How do you survive? So I'm thinking with people like this woman, that you do. I guess she did the best she could. But I feel for myself at all the experience that I learned from her, and myself, my own personal experiences, that you carry yourself wherever you go in life. And people are going to believe what they want to believe about you, about your heritage or your character, whatever. And so it's teaching me to accept myself. You can live off your wits. You can live in your car. You can have a life of adventure. That I like. But I am who I am. And I met people there in Hawaii who insisted that I was a Tahitian. And then pointing my face, I know who you are. I never met this person in my life. And they're telling me I'm this nationality. It's amazing what people say and do to other people when they're in the middle of nowhere, when you're in an exotic environment, and how people treat people from other places. And in Hawaii, that since there's not a lot of black people there, and there's no support system. And I think that's why I was so keen on, I really wanted to keep our friendship. But there's a point where you have to say, enough is enough. When your safety could be hampered, or your reputation based on what someone else is doing, you're gonna think twice. So I feel that the experience in Hawaii and not being around black people and trying to find friendships of people that you could identify with, I learned to, embrace it. Embrace you. If you're Ethiopian Jew, then you're Ethiopian Jew. If you're a black girl from Brooklyn and where she's from, you're a black girl from Brooklyn. And it's all good. If you're a native Hawaiian, then you're native Hawaiian. It doesn't matter. What matters is you accept yourself. And find out. When you get little bits of information, find out about yourself. What makes you tick? How to stand your ground so that no matter where you go, whether it's Maui, whether it's Europe or Latin America or Africa itself, and anywhere, you bring yourself and you represent yourself wherever where you go in life. I believe, live in integrity about yourself. And I think when people see that you stand in your ground at who you are, people will respect it. They may not have to like you. Racism is. But at least I think they respect you enough to say, I'm me. I have this heritage, and it's all good. So I don't feel badly to say, yeah, I'm a black person from Queens, New York. I live in this city now. My grandparents are from the Caribbean. It's okay. You're okay. And like the video I did yesterday evening, that the apology that when apologies due, I felt I had to do an apology because my videos is not about attacking someone to have any background, whether it is Native American. I guess meeting this person that I met in Hawaii and seeing how she was getting consumed and she couldn't keep her story straight. And she suffered from mental illness. And I've met in my journey in life other women, other black women. And I was in the military. And I met a woman, I think she was a little older than me. She was an officer. She was an officer in the Air Force. Now the Air Force has even less black people. You're surrounded by whites. You're in an isolated area, in usually a white township. out in the middle of nowhere because there has to be a large Navy, Air Force base, so you need a lot of land. And she had a mental breakdown. I could tell she was one of those intelligent, well-educated black women. She seemed like she would have been a really nice person. And they did something to her. And I had witnessed something happening to her. And when I saw it, and I was angry for her, and I said, it was like a reflex. I said it out of my mouth and said, you're trying to hurt her. Why are you trying to hurt her? Why are you doing this to her? The doctor got upset. I forget if I actually said it to the doctor or something. And then that person tried to mess me over and give me write me up. You have people who do bad things to black people, especially when you're outnumbered. She was just a woman, an educated woman. She was an officer. She's being processed out of the military. And there's no one there to give her support. And so I feel for the black community because there's no real social services to help us. They don't like you. They don't like smart black people. I'm not talking about a smarty pants. I'm not talking about that. But you have intelligent people who are goodly in heart and are just trying to move up the ladder, just trying to sustain themselves and make an honest living. And this was prevented her. Blacks are not liked in certain military branches, especially the Air Force. They use the N-word. They're not, the whites there in those towns, they use it against black people. And they mean it. They're not trying to sound cool. Yeah, they mean it. And she had a mental breakdown. And so I'm coming with this baggage, this experience. And so here now I'm in a place where there's a lot of black people. And we're hurting. There's so much homelessness, so many homeless black people where I live in New York City. And so many of us want to latch onto something that they feel will pull themselves up to be liked. It's not making people like you more by disguising who you are. But again, you are who you are. Whether it's just 1% or 100% of something, you are who you are. But we're not liking we're not helping our community. We're just floating along, and we'll tell people what you want them to believe. We're not supporting each other. Just like that woman that lives near my mom, and how she has no allegiance to the blacks in that community, anybody. She associates with being Native American, which is cool if she wants to be Native American, but then you live in a black neighborhood, and she doesn't love us enough to permit people to have a bench to sit on to wait for the bus or the element. She said, well, they can just run for the bus. You learn the schedule, and when you see the bus coming, just run for it. But it's a dangerous street, I have to add. And people have gotten hit by that area. It's a very dangerous intersection. And I just feel, wow, are we becoming this callous? We want to be everything else, live and benefit from what is good in the black community, and then you don't help us. And I feel this way about with Obama. For President Obama, he was raised in an Asian community. He had he was raised with his white grandparents and mom. He lived in Indonesia, lived in Hawaii. And both places are heavily Asian, you know. And he comes to Chicago. He says he's going to do community, what do you call it? Community, I forget the term, when community activist, something like that. They got him in politics, you know. They accepted him. We're very accepting. Blacks in America. We accept anybody who we think love us. And I learned that he didn't love us. He didn't love us enough to support our needs. And then when he was leaving office, he said, if you don't vote, you know, you're going to change my, you know, you're going to change my legacy or something like that. And scolding us if we really, what he's saying, if we don't vote for Hillary, you know, he's going to turn his back on us. But I have to remind him, he already turned his back on us. He had 8 years, and I was upset. So again, like that woman that lives by my mom, and like people like Obama, that you have people, as I said, they look like you, talk like you, act like you, dress like you, live amongst you, but they do not support you. And they have contempt for you. Just wake up, black people, or whatever what you want to call yourself. Just wake up. Whoever is supposed to be serving you, no matter what they consider themselves, should represent you. In a nutshell, you need to be more selective who comes into your territory, your neighborhood, your school system. And they must represent the body of people there and serve your needs and care about you. That lady did not care about us. So that's really all that I got to say. I know it's all over the place. And I just want to be understood. I'm just seeing too many of us. And we could be mixed race. We can have all that salad in us. It's okay. You're okay no matter what you are. Just care for yourself and support one another. Period. Love yourself. I'm learning to love myself, to accept me for me. So it doesn't matter what race I am. I don't care. I'm learning that it doesn't matter about race. I just want us to wake up. I feel there's a new dispensation going on in the world today. And that race is really not the issue. It's your spirit. And we're to learn lessons while we're here. I want us all to pass the test, to realize I think this is all one big illusion. And we're to learn from the different lessons, like the lesson I learned from the lady from Hawaii, the lesson I learned when I was in the military with the other black woman who lost her mind. All these other lessons. And we're in helter-skelter right now. We're becoming schizophrenic in our identity. So we're not grounded. We're not grounded because we're not stable up here. We have to get grounded in our identity, whatever what it is. And it's reflecting in our community. Our community is not stable. It's dissolving. And I'm afraid for our safety. And that's my other motivation doing this video. I'm concerned. I'm genuinely concerned about our safety these days. please just be careful out there. And teach your children to love themselves. Teach them how to do things. Because I feel the time is happening now that we have to learn skills. We have to learn how to do things, how to make things with our hands, to protect ourselves, to be able to take care of our needs. So that's all that I have to say. And I know it's a long video. But again, this video is to watch in your own leisure. And yes, feel free to comment below and to share this video with your friends and family members. And you could subscribe to my channel, Spirit Journey. And I also have Facebook. And you can watch these videos on Facebook. And you can leave your comments there as well. And it's the same name, Spirit Journey, but it's 2 words. And you can give me the thumbs up. So peace and love to you guys. And again, I apologize for if I wasn't understood and if I offended anyone out there. It's not my intention. And I have love for you guys. I have love for all races, actually, because I think all of us really are in the same boat. But we just have different packaging. So take care, guys, and enjoy your weekend. Bye-bye.